I recently replayed Hotline Miami 2 for the first time in a very long time. I'm talking 2 to 3 years right now. And I was taken aback by it. I want to preface that this game isn't bad by any means. I don't want you or anyone else to watch this and think Hotline Miami 2 is bad. It's not. It's a good game. It's enjoyable. And if you enjoyed the first one, I'm sure you're going to enjoy hints of it as well. But I don't know, I do have some complaints about it. But before we begin, I just want to say I appreciate you clicking on this video. If you haven't played the first two games, or the only two games I should say, I do recommend you go play them and then come back, because you're going to be lost the entire time. So yeah. So Hotline Miami is one of those games that I think, hypothetically speaking, if it had never gotten any sequels or any more content, I really think that the game would have aged perfectly. For those who don't know, this game was so unique when it came out. It showed everyone that you didn't need millions of dollars or hundreds of game devs to make a game that's good. It quickly became a success. A couple of years later, in 2015, the sales would even go past 1 million sales, which was just unheard of, you know? If this was like a big AAA game, it would have probably been a failure. It wouldn't have been, like 1 million sales is nothing, right? If you have, again, millions of dollars and hundreds of game devs. But for a small indie title that was practically made by 2 people, it was a big deal. It was crazy. When you play Hotline Miami, you're left with a lot of questions. A lot of self-reflection is constantly hinted at in the game to the player. Do you like hurting other people? Is a phrase that is iconic and intrinsic to the Hotline Miami series, making its way into countless fan arts and other showcases of appreciation. It's a bit obvious that the game wants you to reflect on how violence is portrayed in video games, and while murder is bad, why do we enjoy recreating it? Stuff like that. It's obvious, but it's not bad. Not every piece of media has to be a deep Hideo Kojima style story. This all came together to make a masterpiece of a game, with quick, engaging combat, and the perfect music to go along with. I'm serious, Hotline Miami has some of the best music I've heard. It's upbeat, energetic, and overall fantastic, to put it lightly. But besides the obvious, there was a proper plot going on in the background. Now let's be real here, I can say that like 90% of us didn't play for the story. Hell, I personally didn't even know this game had a real plot until I realized there was a secret ending that sort of explains what we played through. So then I went back, getting all the letters to spell out I was born in the USA, as I'm sure many of us did. Then, unbeknownst to us, a legitimately interesting plot was laid out to us. It turns out, we were carrying out the work of an ultra-nationalistic group called 50 Blessings, a group that wants to terminate the Russo-American coalition and take back America and return it to its former glory. That type of shit. You, the player, either through jacket or biker, would go out and kill these Russian mobsters, and sometimes, but not often, politicians. Again, the plot comes back to the pointless violence we were very much responsible for, never questioning, never letting our conscience speak, only murder and violence. Hotline Miami 1 has a neat little story with thought-provoking themes. It was unique, unlike anything we had seen ever before. So how do you even begin to make a sequel to a game like that? Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number takes a completely different approach to the series when comparing it to Hotline Miami. Don't get me wrong, the fun killing with the absolute bangers playing in the background is still very much there, and it's still very much fun, at times, but more on that later. However, the story on the other hand just takes an extremely strange turn compared to the first game, sometimes to the point where it's just absurd. I mean, just imagine, right? You're playing Hotline Miami 2 for the first time. You're hyped. You're excited. The first movie tutorial scene happens and you're like, holy crap, dude, they're not gonna hold back on this one. They're going in deep. They're getting even more violent. It's exciting. It's like, whoa, what the hell? What, if this is what we're seeing in the first 10 seconds, what are we gonna see 2 hours into the game, right? And then as time goes on, you get introduced to like 7 different characters with like 6 different plots going on, and you don't know what the hell is going on anymore. So real quick, I just want to get this out of the way. My only real problem gameplay wise was that the levels felt way too open and hyper linear compared to Hotline Miami. There was no room for improvisation, and if there was, you were probably going to die. Hotline Miami 2 is a game that tries a lot of things, and I respect that. I really do. None of the plots in Hotline Miami 2 are inherently bad. Their execution though is what puts me off. I mean, think about it. A good majority of the plots, except a very few, feel like filler or just plain unnecessary. The Sun, an awesome character with awesome levels, but I have to keep it real and admit that in the grand scheme of things, his plot and overall presence in Hotline Miami 2 just feels unnecessary. In Hotline Miami, you had Jacket and Biker. 85% of the game was played with Jacket. This is where you as a player were meant to start questioning. What are we doing here? Who's calling me and giving me these details? What's my purpose here? With Biker, you're meant to be able to answer some of these questions, i.e. the final resolution chapter. In Hotline Miami 2, this balance of characters and ultimately purpose is completely thrown out the window. There's about, and I shit you not, 13 playable characters in Hotline Miami 2. This would have been fine if these characters did something for the story, but again, 80% of them are just filler. For example, let's take the Sun in consideration. Excluding anything gameplay or music related, does his story have any real purpose? I really don't mean to sound like I hate this character. He's legitimately one of my favorites in this game, but what connection does he have to the first game besides being the son of the mafia boss in the first game? Another example is Jake. I personally do like this character just as I like the Sun, but again, what purpose does he serve besides being fan service for the people who use the Jake mask in Hotline Miami? Now, this vibe of unnecessity and a lack of purpose is how I feel about most of this game, thematically speaking. Except, there are two storylines that I believe actually do a decent job in tying back into Hotline Miami 1. I'm referring to the Beard prequel storyline and the Martin Brown sequel storyline. The two storylines take place before and after the events of Hotline Miami 1 respectively. But before we get into the importance of the prequel storyline, I think it's best for both of us to go back to Hotline Miami 1 and remember the character known as Beard. Beard was a serious enigma in the first game. He would constantly show up at wherever you were post missions. Pizzeria, he was there. Bar, he was there. I believe at some point a light bulb is supposed to turn on when we realize that this character isn't really normal. He constantly talks about how much of a good friend Jacket is and how he wouldn't take his money for the items we get. Pizza, drink, VHS rental, whatever it may be. Your money's no good here, he tells Jacket. At a later point in the game, our interactions with Beard stop. His dead body can be seen behind the counters in these establishments, and he's replaced with a shady man, telling Jacket to hurry up, and just being generally cold towards him. It is then revealed to us that most of the game was just a recap of what happened a couple of weeks prior, as Jacket is in a coma. So in these half-truths, half-comatose dreams, who is this man that keeps appearing in Jacket's mind? See, there's no real explanation on what Beard was, at least not in the first game. Hotline Miami 2, however, does clear up some mysteries. The prequel story takes place in 1985, 4 years before the events of the first game. We see the character of Beard, Jacket, and two others serving in this Vietnam-like fictional war, although it's comically based in Hawaii. In this storyline, a lot of questions are explained. For example, let's put video game logic aside. Has nobody ever questioned why or how Jacket is just able to go on a murder spree against hardened mobsters and law enforcement? It's something that I always wondered before playing Hotline Miami 2, because food for thought, right? So because of that, I love the fact that Hotline Miami 2 explains to the player and basically says, yeah, Jacket is pretty much this universe's equivalent of a Vietnam vet. It also explains how 50 Blessings operates. The ultra-nationalistic terrorist group, remember them? Yeah, we see that the 50 Blessings operators communicate in a way that's damn near identical with how the military communicated with Beard and vice versa in the prequel story. Talk about weeding the garden and taking care of the guest luggage, stuff like that. Most importantly, this storyline explains why Beard is so revered by Jacket. You see, on the final mission that Beard and his group goes on, they're tasked with overtaking this power plant. Everyone knows that this plan is a suicide mission. Barnes, one of the members of Beer's group, even stating that this should be a job of a platoon and not 4 men. Long story short, the plan goes mostly well, but at the end, things go wrong and bombs go off. Jacket gets critically injured. Beer then escorts his brother in arms out of the power plant, calling in support for an injured Jacket. He then hands his injured friend a photograph he and him took together to remind him of who saved his ass. It's subtle yet perfect. It explains to us, the player, who Beard was and why he has such a special place in Jacket's heart and his subconscious mind. This, besides the Martin Brown storyline, is the only story to serve a purpose related to Hotline Miami 1. So the Martin Brown story takes place in '91, 2 years after the first game. Midnight Animal is a movie through Martin Brown, acting as the main character. The movie is supposed to be a retelling of the events that happened in Hotline Miami. My personal reasoning on why this story has merit compared to the others is that it shows us how the world viewed the events of Hotline Miami 1. I think this aspect and take on things is awesome. It shows the exaggerated perception of the people compared to what the reality was. For example, the first scene with Martin Brown and the girl. You know what that's based off of? Jacket and his relationship with his girlfriend from the first game. We see stuff like her cleaning up the apartment when she arrives, and obviously being there by her own will. First sleeping in the bathroom with the door locked, then on the sofa, and then eventually getting a bed right next to Jacket. We see this sort of progression in their bond and relationship through environmental storytelling. The exaggerated movie retelling of this relationship twisted into something vile and heinous. I also like the take on the phone calls. We know as the player that Jacket and the other operatives did indeed get calls that were filled with doublespeak. Calls that would then instruct them to go to certain locations for more killing. However, the general public doesn't know this. So in the movie, interestingly enough, the calls are portrayed as a figment of Jacket's imagination. Jacket himself is portrayed as a grotesque, unkept, mentally ill man. Overall, Hotline Miami 2 is a unique game. I think that it tries to do a lot of things at once, but fails to make it all work. With this being said, I think the prequel storyline and the Midnight Animal sequel storyline are good exceptions. The prequel comes in and answers a lot of questions that were left unanswered in the first game. The sequel then comes in to show how Jacket and the events of the first game were perceived by the public, and how the story could be twisted when you don't have the full picture. Honestly, I think we would have been better off with some sort of DLC instead of a full-blown game. The gameplay compared to the first is also lacking at times. The levels in Hotline Miami felt tight and claustrophobic sometimes. There was almost a sense of freedom and spontaneity. Excluding the freedom of masks or weapons, you could play through a single level in like 4 different ways. With Hotline Miami 2, it's so very linear and straightforward, with almost no room to do anything out of the ordinary. Sometimes I feel as if I'm following a script instead of going on a murderous rampage. Worst of all, I feel as if I'm following a script that has no reason to exist. Well, this took way longer than I expected. I was thinking this video would take like a max at week to make, but now we're pushing close to a month. You know, shit happens. School started up again, so I've been busy with that and a whole other bunch of life stuff. But I just wanted to say, you know, the whole point of this end card is just for me to give you like a genuine thank you. I don't know how long this video is. I think it's pushing like maybe 15 to 20 minutes, something like that. I really do appreciate you like staying all the way until the end and listening to me ramble for like 15 plus minutes. You know, it means a lot, seeing as the fact that I did put like, I don't want to say I worked hard, because it was just literally just me chilling in my room and recording the audio and putting together clips or whatnot over a game I'm pretty passionate about. But, you know, thank you. It means a lot to me. Thank you for watching, and I'm thinking about doing more stuff like this, so let me know if I should do more stuff like this. And feel free to recommend any games or any like video ideas or anything like that. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this stuff. And yeah, thank you.